Our favourite mummy is finally out, but the question is, are they worth summoning for? We'll be going over what exactly ETO does, what tier she's in, and of course the last point being what you came here for. ETO is what I would describe as a marathon support character, and I will be going over exactly why this is the case, and a rough breakdown of her skills. First off, ETO's active skill increases your allies' basic stats by up to 20% for 3 turns, which is fantastic for a support, and there's a few reasons why. Our first point ties into the second part of her active skill, where she gives your units 1 dodge each on the turn that her active skill is used. In Marathon, a large majority of your score is both from how much health your units have before combat ends and how much damage was taken. So by giving your units a dodge from an enemy attack, especially from the AoE stages with Chew and Take respectively, your score can go up a lot with her. And besides the dodge, the basic stats of all your units, especially green ones, will be increased, which means your health will also be increased, increasing your score by a reasonable amount. And with this, ETO does a few very vital things for Marathon combat, making her quite the impressive support, especially in Marathon. Besides her impressive active skill, ETO has some rather interesting passive skills that further cement her as the best green support unit, Marathon support unit, and we'll start with her first one. ETO's first passive skill is that the first time she uses an active skill that turn, all allies have their damage increased by 15%. This is quite useful in that, to get the best score possible in Marathon, you must run as much health gear as possible, and the extra damage helps make up for lack of damage. This next passive is what makes her a very interesting support unit for events such as Marathon combat and why she is the best green support. Not only does her active skill raise the stats of your units, if they happen to be green, they'll receive additional stat boosts on top of that. This next passive essentially makes it so that any debuff inflicting attack can only be placed once on your units or any skill that counts as one. This prevents stacking debuffs on your own team and can be quite useful depending on the circumstances. And finally, we have a scorecard for ETO here. Is she worth it? I would think so, especially with how prominent the Marathon combat game mode is and how useful she is outside of the event. And it would only be right to update the tier list to see where she goes. Do you agree with me? Disagree? Let me know in the comments. And I wish you much luck on your summons.